Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Biz Meds. We are neuroscience business coaches and your hosts for the show. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darris. And for those of you who don't know, we help business owners scale. In fact, I've scaled a business from 60 to 90 million in under 18 months without working longer hours or hiring more people. We've also helped other businesses scale 32% of revenue in less than 12 months. Again, without hiring additional people, without working longer hours in the business. And that's not to impress you, but that's just to help you understand that, hey, we've kind of gone through the things to help you give you the minimum effective dose in your business and cut through all the bullshit that's out there in the world. And speaking of bullshit out there, we'll dive into today's topic.
Yeah, and the topic for today is, in your business journey, you just feel like everywhere you look, somebody's telling you that there's only one right way to solve your business problems. And that's not true because you're just kind of conditioned on which area of, the internet or wherever you end up at, on whose algorithm you end up on, telling you that you need to do it this way. This is the only way you're going to be successful. But then you, swipe down and you see the next video and somebody's telling you the complete opposite. And we've talked about this in a different format as well regarding routines and how routines could really, really make you, or they could also break you. They could hinder your progress, or they could really, really support what you have going on for your business.
Yeah. So today's really around helping you move past that feeling of being stuck or overwhelmed or just really unsure of what to do, because everywhere you turn, as you said, Saad, everyone's trying to tell you this is the only way. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, as we dove into the research on a lot of things, it was a really cool round as we researched this one, is to see that there is some really great scientific research out there in the neuroscience and psychology worlds that really help dispel. And we'll have, I think, a really great example today to talk about that as we dive in. And we'll borrow from, some related areas, but also show how that specific research is played out in kind of real life. And we're going to use that today to help you get unstuck.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess we can dive in.
Yeah. Let's hop right in.
Yeah. So when we say that, I think you had a great lead in with the topic today, and, you're continually told, you're conditioned to believe, hey, there's only this one way to do it. And you're right. When you look at a lot of the ads that are coming through, it's, hey, everyone's selling something. Everyone, it's this, no, there's only this way. And you find out as you go through, it's like, oh, there's actually 2 + 2 = 4, but so does 3 + 1.
Yeah.
So does 4 + 0.
Yeah.
So does 5 - 1.
Yeah.
And we said there's multiple ways to get there. Mm-hmm. But I think the really cool, interesting thing was, as we kind of were thinking through and looking at kind of some of the research that had been done, it was this study, well, a few different studies actually. And what really kind of flipped the switch, or the aha moment, was it was interesting to see how people, when they're looking to deal with kind of stress or fear, and there's actually a couple different approaches to do it. And the main message of all of that is they kind of both work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's just say, that you have a fear of snakes.
Yeah.
Right. And probably some of our listeners have probably had that fear of snakes. Well, then how do you overcome that fear of snakes? How do you know what to do? Which is one? Because you'll have everyone has an opinion on it, right? Well, there's two major areas of research on this. And the one is there's one camp that kind of says, well, in order to overcome that, we're going to slowly acclimatize you to snakes. So we'll maybe give you a picture of a snake, or we'll get you to think in your mind, depending on kind of your level of fear, is what, think about a snake.
Think in your mind, oh no, a snake.
But we laugh about that, but there are people who are that much afraid they even think about it. It gives them anxiety. And it's not to belittle, but I think it's silly. But I've never experienced that, so it's very hard. Or we're gonna give you a picture of a snake, and then we'll kind of slowly just work through that, right? So there's kind of like this very slow acclimatization. It's kind of like, nice and slow, kind of like pace yourself through it. And some people will go through that. You've probably heard of that before. And then on the other side of the research is this whole idea that it's kind of, we'll say, shock and awe, full immersion. Like, oh, you're afraid of snakes? I'm going to bring a snake, put it in your face, and make you hold it.
Lock you in the room.
Lock you in a room and make you touch the snake and everything else. And that kind of like overwhelms kind of your preconditioned responses. So there's kind of like an overriding of the
Is it the amygdala?
yes, so your amygdala response. So it's kind of your prefrontal cortex kind of takes over, and you kind of just want to overwhelm it, and it kind of helps you rewire. And both approaches are looking at kind of just rewiring your responses.
Yeah,
that's really all it is.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thing, and so that got us to thinking about, oh, interesting. So what about, like, so everyone has this thing. It's like, oh, you don't need therapy, or it's like, it's you need therapy, and it's, you got to do this or you got to do that, and there's always like these two, seems like, opposing camps out there in the business world of like how to get something done.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because like I know a lot of people, because I feel like it also comes down to personality as well. There's people that just want to get it over with. They just want to get to it, and then they want to get it over with. Even if they're scared shitless, they still just want to get it over with. There's other people that are like, you know what? I don't really need to put myself in that much of a discomfort. I'll slowly get to it. I knew a guy that was scared of heights, but a very aggressive in terms of like some of the approaches he would take. Scared of heights, like even if you get onto the second floor of a building, it's like, oh no, we're very high. Goes and does a skydive out of the blue. It's just like, I just want to get over my fear. Okay, cool. You could have also just gone up to like the tallest building and just taken the elevator up and like slowly, like gradually gone one floor up, and then look down. But the result's still the same. You just, one way you can get there in a different manner. The other one, you're like building up your confidence, and you won't. I don't know. I feel like it just kind of comes down to personality.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think you're, maybe a little bit of a foreshadowing of that's actually one of the really key parts of knowing or being able to determine which one works for you. So let's cut through kind of, we'll maybe fast forward. So we kind of talked about some adjacent studies, and again, you can look up, there's many studies that have been done on, there's a few names. Donald Meichenbaum is one of them. I think there's Charles Duhigg did some research on it. So there's multiple kind of like research around it. So, and there's the idea. So I think it was Meichenbaum came out with stress inoculation training. So it's SIT, and that's kind of that whole overwhelm. So your prefrontal cortex overrides your amygdala response, and that's kind of where that is, right? And it's the whole idea of anti-fragility. But there's also that whole other camp that says, okay, well, it's maybe smaller things. But why this is so important in business, again, it's when you're feeling stuck because you feel, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that, that's really the barrier. And I think we're just gonna cut through that barrier today, because I think we're gonna bring up two really important books. And I think if you've read them, you'll get immense value. If you haven't read them, you should read them. But what you're gonna find is they give you two very different messages. So which one is right? So without further ado, we have
Atomic Habits
by James Clear, and we have the book on mental toughness by our boy Andy Frisella. Don't be a hoe, share the show. So if you haven't read that, I'll maybe give a synopsis of the book on mental toughness. This is shock and awe, right? So this is, if anyone has ever heard of 75 Hard, if you haven't, look it up. Extremely amazing program that it's changed people's lives. But it is that shock and awe to the system of you basically, you go hard in the paint. and you're dialed in
Yeah.
for, for the 75 hard program, it's 75 days of just you're locked in. And it's not like, oh, I'm making these small changes. It's for a lot of people, it's an aggressive overhaul,
Yeah.
right? So that's like, hey, I'm going to lock you. You're afraid of sharks. I'm going to put you in this cage, put you in scuba gear, and I'm going to drop you in. I'm going to let you be right next to the sharks, and not little sharks. They're going to be big sharks, big nasty sharks. That is what this is. That's what this book is.
And then on the other hand, like this one's the slower approach where I think it's right out of the book where it takes 21 days to change a habit. So you have to work on the change of one habit for 21 days.
Yep.
And then you do it in small different increments and apply it across all the different stages that you were looking to change.
Yep.
So
small changes, small habits over a period of time give you massive results. Yep. And that's where it's so funny, because it's like, okay, well, which one do I subscribe to?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? The research is really around, hello, they both actually work.
Yeah.
That's at the very end of the day. And you also made it, you kind of had that whole foreshadowing where one of the major influences or determining factors is personality. The second is context.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think we as business owners, we as people, we like to have we need the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing I think we get working with other business owners and working with different clients is that it's not a one side, like sometimes the tactic is not just hey, this fits everything. I like frameworks because the frameworks are usually very universal. Like you can apply the scaling framework, you can apply the afterburner framework, you can apply the framework of focus or flow follows focus. A lot of those things, because those frameworks are kind of just they're more universally applicable. But when you get into the tactics and the actual application of things, like you have to have different tools to solve different problems and different personalities and different context.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, hey, guess what? You might need to do some shock and awe. You might need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about this too, like when we just initially started talking about this. So, like you said, personality, and then the other is context. Hypothetically, if you have a grocery store, you're going to do a shock and awe. Like you just want to open it and you can take as many people in to get your produce out, right? If you have a mechanic shop, like you maybe want to start with like taking 3 vehicles in and doing a good job with them before you start doing like 10 different vehicles in one day immediately.
Yeah.
Just like start taking open bookings.
Yeah.
So just again, to your point, like contextual.
Yeah. It's habit loop. Right. So like I think there's times where if you are questioning, oh, which one do I do? You're capable of both. And I think if you look back in your life, you will be able to understand or be able to see where you have proof that you've done things, or maybe there's been a time in life where you just made a massive change, and it's kind of like that dramatic immersion, and you've gone through it, or where maybe you like me, I'll tell a personal story where I started before my first trip to Italy, a few months prior, started doing daily lessons, and now I think I did 1,006 is what I hit today. 1,006 days straight of doing my Italian practice that I track. And so, but that's like, for me, it's like, oh, cool. Like whenever I feel like maybe I don't have consistency or I don't have discipline, it's like, well, I have proof. I can just look at it. It's 1,006 days consistently of practicing Italian. And it allows you, I think it helps you get unstuck to say, okay, well, I do have the proof. Where we sometimes believe that, or we tell ourselves a story that we're not this thing, or, oh, I can't do that. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, I think if you sit back and deconstruct your life a little bit and you would look for where those things are, you'll probably see where both of these, you've leveraged either one of those at different times in your life. And the whole point of today's message is really that they both work.
Yeah. And don't get caught up in the whatever somebody else is telling you, and that this is the way, this is how you do it. Sorry, this is going to be like a sidebar, but similar. I see videos of people at the gym. They're like, yeah, I keep hearing people, if you want like big shoulders, you have to do this exercise. Actually, no, you don't. You do this exercise instead.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to get their own message out there.
And as a result, you do nothing
You do neither one of them because you're like,
because
well,
you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so that was, again, the whole point of you feel stuck, but you're not really, because anything is better than nothing.
Uh-huh.
If you want to build your shoulders, okay, we'll do a shoulder exercise.
Yeah.
It may not be optimal, but you're going to do something. And
Yeah.
that, at least that first step, is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
And so today is really around, you already have the tools, you already know. It's just I think it's more based in fear, the fear of making the wrong choice, or that I can't, suddenly pivot, or, it's like, I'm locked into this thing, I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do ourselves a huge disservice when we prevent ourselves from taking action simply because we're afraid of making the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I look at it and say, like, that's probably been a very consistent thing that I look at when I've struggled in times. It's like, yeah, I don't want to make the wrong choice, but we even said, like, the whole point is to fail faster. And especially as we're older and our brains are wired to kind of protect us, we have to be able to be okay just failing or just pivoting. Say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go full immersion.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a try. And if I fail, what have you failed?
Yeah. Yeah. I think my brain has changed because when I was younger, I would feel more scared to take the big leaps.
Yeah.
Now, because I've done it so many times, I feel less inclined to go the slower, longer way, mostly because I have the data from my experiences that says that whatever I do, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I will be just fine. Right.
Well, you actually bring up an interesting thing. It's that idea of, like, whenever you start something, like, you only start it from scratch the first time.
Yeah.
And any time you start again after that, you actually have starting, but with experience.
Yeah.
And so that should be a really good, I guess, at least at a very minimum, comforting thing to understand, is that every time you try something, you're actually getting the experience. And we really just want to have a good conversation around, hey, I respect the hell out of Andy. I respect the hell out of James Clear. And I think both their messages are fantastic. And one thing I find is sometimes you'll find one camp makes you feel like shit because you're not doing it their way, but they both work.
Yeah. And just to kind of a shameless plug, this is where we are very successful in what we do. It's because when we work with the businesses, we identify, like, what is actually best for the approach that they need, right? And that's why we have had successful clients. That's why you've been able to, like, take companies from $60 to $90 million, right? It's because you need an unbiased view on which one of these two skill sets need to be plugged in which situation.
Yeah, I mean, I even look at it. So look at our 1 month day program, right? So the velocity program, and a lot of, like, it's based on, like, it's rooted in flow state, and there's a certain skill to get into flow state. So some of our clients, before they actually are able to do a full 1 month day, we actually start with a little bit of this. So before we get to this, like the immersion of a 1 month day, we actually start here and say, guess what? We're going to start building a little bit of that skill around flow state and learning how to get into flow state before you can actually jump into
you can't just,
right? Some can jump right in.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, okay, I understand what flow is. I've been there before. And they have a little more experience, so they're able to kind of jump right into a 1 month day. And then sometimes it's actually a merger of both of them, because as you do it, you get a little more of the skill, but then you can start chaining multiple 1 month days together, and now you have kind of a more in-depth immersion. And so I think the thing that's become really clear over the last little while is that we're actually always on a set of, it's a scale. It's not an either or. It's, when Alex Hormozy talks about, he used to subscribe to the whole, you're ready to buy right now, or high trust or low trust. It's actually, you're on a scale, and you kind of like, as you need more information, you either need less information or you need a lot more information to make a decision. And sometimes that just takes more time to get to the point where you need more information to make that decision. I think that's a lot of things. We actually exist on those.
Yeah, that pendulum that swings.
Yeah, that
both.
scale of saying, oh, well, for flow or it's kind of some of skill acquisition. Sometimes I can go full immersion. Sometimes it's not. It's less. It's not so like the either or, the black or white. And I think that's a hard thing for people, because we like to be rested in this is the path. And that becomes a little bit harder thing for people to kind of wrap their heads around.
Yeah. Conceptually, both work excellent. Contextually, one is going to work better than the other.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. That is the other part. That thing we don't want to miss is the context. And sometimes you need to have or be able to talk with someone who understands what that context is to help guide you a little bit more, to say, okay, or if you are struggling, just try one and say, okay, if you, maybe the idea of going full immersion scares the shit out of you, okay, well then what's the one little thing that you can do to commit to doing consistently? For if it's maybe you don't read, maybe what you can do is say, you know what, I'm going to set my timer for just 5 minutes or maybe just 10 minutes. And I don't care how much I read, whatever, and just 10 minutes a day, I'm just going to get in the small habit of doing that. And as a result, you gain some experience, and you might be like, oh, you know what, I can read for 2 hours. And that might be your contextual full immersion.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. But any of those things are going to help you kind of move forward. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's ever a bad thing, especially for business owners. So I just thought it was a really cool topic to see where that whole, the research into stress and fear inoculation and how to deal with that actually leveraged over into how do we actually make meaningful change? How do we cut out the feeling of stuck and things like that? And it's really around, guess what? Both methods work. One is no better or worse than the other.
Yeah.
You just have to understand the context and your personality to understand which is going to be.
Yeah.
And you're not fixed, right? You're not, hey, you're just born this way. You can do both.
Wow. Yeah. For those that have read both books, like, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments and let us know what you guys think about this, because that'd be, again, it would be great to know that what we're talking about is obviously like tried and true. So it's cool to get feedback on that type of stuff too.
Yeah. And there's so much information, and there's a lot of personalities out there, again, that they, guess what, they make a lot of money by telling you this is the one way.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's fine. Everyone, you can make your decisions. You can support who you want, but we're here to say, each is actually equally valid. And there's tons of research in there. There's, I guess there's been a couple books. So Charles Duhigg wrote Power of Habit, and he's a Pulitzer Prize journalist. BJ Fogg wrote Tiny Habits, and that's really kind of aligns with James Clear, kind of like that whole reinforcing like the neuroplasticity through repetition. So smaller changes over time that's where the neuroplasticity comes in. Duhigg's habit loop, it's the Fogg's Tiny Habits. Again, it's all those things. And then, on Andy Frisella's side, there's that whole, it basically aligns with the stress inoculation training that Donald Meichenbaum came up with, and overriding kind of that stuff. But again, both are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And your context and personality matter in this whole thing. So don't forget, as a business owner, like that also plays a part. So when you're afraid of taking, the first step, it's the first step. You're given, again, I said this before, one of my mentors told me, Darris, you're given a right foot and a left foot, not a right foot and a wrong foot.
No.
And that has stuck with me. And I have continued to say that because, one, it makes me laugh, you chuckle, because it's silly. It sounds silly, but it's actually very true. Like, it's a series, like every step is a series of course corrections. And that's what you just have to remember. And And maybe the reframing of that failure is really just, I'm taking another step to course correct. And when you walk, you don't actually walk in a straight line. It's a series of zigzags because your one foot's going one way, your foot, and you're always just course correcting.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do, is just help at least get you moving forward, as opposed to feeling like you're stuck and refusing to make a decision when you have all the power to make that decision.
I hope.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think it was perfectly said.
Okay. We're going to end today on that note. So whether you're an Andy Frisella fan or a James Clear fan, guess what? You're both right. As anticlimactic as that is, we are Biz Meds. We are your hosts. I'm Darris.
My name's Saad.
And we're your neuroscience business coaches here to help you scale and give you the minimum effective dose for your business to help you get unstuck and out of your own way. And if you've just joined us, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We do not charge. We get paid for this. We're not sponsored. So like my buddy Andy says, don't be a host, share the show. If you've been with us since the beginning, we thank you. We can't thank you enough. My mom, thank you. Saad's mom, love you. Thank you so much. Again, always supporting us and everyone that's been along every step of the way. Remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about, and we're going to see you in the next episode.